Hi, I'm Ariel Lim. I'm a graduate student at Nichols College, and I'm also a staff assistant for the Executive Office of Economic Development for the City of Worcester. Today I'm going to talk to you about time management from a critical thinking perspective. Now, we all have 24 hours in a day, no more, no less. We'll just ignore daylight savings. But we always say, I don't have enough time. I wish I had more time. Now, Charlemagne the God, one of my favorite radio personalities, wrote a book, Black Privilege, and in it he talks about how we all have the same 24 hours. And what that means is people doing amazing things, people juggling these extremely intense workloads, all have 24 hours, right? I'm talking about world leaders, people like Mark Zuckerberg running social media empires, people like Beyonce doing world tours and writing albums and having babies. They all have 24 hours. Now, sadly, we all can't be Beyonce, but we can think differently about how we spend our time by applying concepts of critical thinking. So what I will talk about today is how we can look at critical thinking from a macro and a micro level. So from a macro level, we want to think about the concepts of critical thinking, such as self-awareness and honesty. How are we spending our time, right? I have a friend who always tells me, I can't work out. I don't have time to work out. But then I'll go on Facebook and see she posted a status about binge watching the latest season of Game of Thrones. So do you not have time, or is it a matter of priorities, right? Being honest with yourself and aware of that. Speaking of Facebook, and I'm sorry I'm picking on Mark Zuckerberg today, but that's such a time waster, right? The perceived benefits cause us to get lost in timelines, tweets, and then the next thing you know, you're looking at your mother, sister's, cousin's vacation photos from 2012. I don't know how it happens, but it does, I promise you. And in that time, you could have read a couple of chapters of a book that's been collecting dust on your nightstand, that you've been too busy to read. But have you been? It's a matter of priorities, right? And that's another thing, is there's a cognitive bias we have called hyperbolic discounting, where we want that instant gratification. We want to see that timeline and get that like or whatever it is versus the bigger long-term payoff, like finishing a book. Maura Thomas, she writes about time management often, or in fact, it's actually apart from time management in a sense where she says that time management itself doesn't work. When you're doing to-do lists, it's not enough because plans can change. She wants us to focus on what's called attention management, where it's more about priorities. Now, I think it's a little bit of semantics. I think attention management is like the macro level of time management, where you're looking at your priorities. And then the micro level is when you get down into the nitty-gritty scheduling, right? So going back to Mark Zuckerberg, he's notorious for wearing the same thing, like every day. Kind of like Steve Jobs with his black turtlenecks. They've eliminated that decision process. They've decided how to decide we're wearing the same thing every day so we can free our decision making for bigger things. And this is something that we can all do. I do it myself every night when I'm, have some free time. I get my outfit ready for the next day, so it's good to go. Another thing we can do when we get down to the micro level now is celebrate small wins, right? In a Forbes article by Jennifer Cohen, it's called "This is the single most important thing to know if you want to succeed in life." I mean, with a title like that, how could you not read it, right? In sum, she says progress is power, right? So when we say we don't have time, a lot of us are talking about we don't have the time to do something in its entirety. Like, I don't have the time right now to sit here and read one of these books. I just don't. But we can read one chapter at a time, right? That takes about 15 minutes for most books. And a few chapters in, maybe you finished part 1 of a 3-part book. A couple weeks later, you're on part 2. Then in a month, maybe you finished it, right? And celebrate those small wins. It'll propel you to move further. Like, oh, I'm halfway through. Like, I might as well finish it now. Another thing that we can do is really reconsider what we're doing with our downtime. Now, I'm not talking about multitasking. I'm not talking about where I'm reading a book and answering phones and writing at the same time. That's ineffective, to say the least. I'm talking about genuine downtime. Because when you look at a calendar, it's very structured. You have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., That's a little bit misleading. I'll compare it to making dinner. I might say I'm making dinner at 6 o'clock. It takes me, an hour for dinner to be done. But in reality, from 6 to 6:15, it might be prepping. But then from 6:15 to 7, it's in the oven. So during that 45 minutes that I have while dinner is, cooking, I'm not doing anything. I can be doing other things like getting my kids' clothes ready for the next day. So that way, when my 3-year-old has a tantrum in the morning because he doesn't want to get up, his outfit's already ready, his diaper is there, like we're good to go. I can focus on the little crisis happening, and that can be done at work as well. Obviously, we hope nobody's having tantrums at work. I hope not. At work, I used to work at a service desk, and we had a Western Union machine, and sometimes sending money took a little bit of time. So what I would do is if I had a line starting to build up behind this person doing a Western Union transaction while I was waiting for things to process, the person had no more things to do on their end, we're just waiting, I would ask people that were in line, is anybody doing a quick transaction, buying a lottery ticket, buying a pack of cigarettes, something quick, so that way the line's not backed up and we're moving. That's a great way to spend your downtime, is doing those little things that you can get done instead of just sitting there and, scrolling through your timeline. Sorry, Mark Zuckerberg. So what I'd like to leave you with is think about time management at a macro level. So really looking at your priorities, and then a micro level. How are you spending your time? So with the first thing is to be aware and honest about how you're spending your time. What are you making a priority in your life? The second thing is decide how to decide on the smaller things, so that way you free up your time for the bigger things, right? Third is make progress and celebrate those small wins along the way, because then you'll just continue to make progress and you'll build on it, right? And finally, coming full circle, be aware of how you spend your downtime, right? Those micro level tasks. And it might only be 15 minutes that we're talking about here, but those 15 minutes truly do add up, right? There's no coincidence that it's the 15 minutes of fame or the 15 minutes of or whatever could save you a car insurance. Like that 15 minutes can have a tremendous impact, right? It adds up, it really does. So with that, my time is up. Thank you.